Okay, today I'm going to talk about the Chinese OS, UOS. Okay, on the left side of my laptop, which is installed the Chinese OS, UOS, and the right side is installed the Deepin, also the Chinese OS, but for it's the community version. Okay, now let's go in. And recently, the UOS Home automatically upgraded to the UOS Home version. So now the screen is like this, the booting screen. The grab screen is like this, is different, a little bit different than the before's one for the UOS Personal. Now it's UOS Family Home. Okay, let's go in. So going inside is the UOS. 家庭版 is the family home version. It's a little bit different from the Deepin community version. So this is mainly for Chinese local market, UOS for Chinese market, and Deepin is mainly for the international market. So the difference is like this. Okay, let's go inside. Okay, going inside. So here is the Deepin. So you can see the desktop background is a little bit different than the Deepin. This is all two computers, Deepin and UOS, are updated to the latest versions so far. So it's different, and the UOS also different than the before's one. Before's one is like, let's see, UOS. Before's one is like this. The background is like this. The Aurora, the kind of background of the desktop now is different. Okay, now it's different like that. And the icon is also different than the Deepin. You can see here, Deepin is like this, a little bit different. And this is mainly for the Chinese market. You can see here, 统信 UOS 家庭版 is the 21.1 already activated. You know, the kernel is 5.4. It's a little bit out of date comparing to the Deepin. Okay, right? And yeah, this is the UOS. What's the difference is this: they integrated a lot of things from the App Store. You can see the App Store, there are so many applications, especially for the Chinese market. So you have Bilibili, the Tencent video, and all those kind of famous brands, famous apps of China. So the ecosystem is very abundant. You don't need to worry about the the software now. It's better than Windows one. Many things now you have, right? I mean, not better than Windows. It's more convenient than Windows, I think, because you don't need to search those apps. You just go to the App Store. There are all apps ready to install. Just click install. That's okay. And the ecosystem, the Chinese UOS is still building it. I think sooner or later will be great because it supports a lot of CPU or something, especially for the Chinese markets now. It's very great. You can see games or something, everything you have, WeChat, QQ, every Chinese app you have. So which is very abundant, especially for the Chinese market. It also supports Android, so that you can have the cell phone app. So this is the Android app. You can install it, APK. just like Windows 11 supports Android. So many apps you can see here. This is UOS. Okay. The icons are a little bit different than the Deepin. Okay, here UOS. So let me show you about the Deepin here. Here is the Deepin. Here's the Deepin. Okay. Deepin a little bit different. You can see the icons or something is a little bit different. It aims for the international version, so it's for the overseas versions. So I think the servers are updating the app or something. The sudo apt-get update also faster than the UOS. If you are outside China, if you are in China, use UOS. So many apps, but here the App Store is aiming for the international version. So the apps are different, a little bit more international, like Telegram from Russia, and the Chrome, those kind of app, and the open source app, they are different. More aims to international market. WeChat also, not the Weixin. Weixin is for the Chinese market. WeChat is for the international market, so a little bit different. And the international app and apps here. Okay, that's the difference. The App Store, because it's for international market, so the updates are newer and faster because it's just for the testing, and the apps are newer as well because it's for international. And you can see here Deepin 20 and the kernel 5.10, so it's newer. The UOS at 5.4, so you can see is the difference. That's the difference. It's a newer for testing, for beta test. I think a Deepin contains more bugs, so to speak. But the UOS has no more bugs because the Deepin test first, and then UOS is more stable comparatively. So we can go to see, the background and the desktop a little bit different. This is the latest Deepin. This is the latest UOS. Before the Deepin also contains the the similar desktops like let's see. Deepin before is the same like Aroma. Deepin before is like this desktop. Some kind of sometimes ago, and Aurora maybe this, sometimes like this. So they are mixing together. But so you go to UOS. So here Deepin first. When you type the Deepin on the search engine Baidu, you go to the international markets. It says Deepin. So you go to the download. It's the Deepin 20.3 with the kernel 5.10 the latest, so you can download internationally from the international servers. So this is totally free. It's open source, so totally free for only x86 structure CPU. So you can download it for your Intel, AMD, or some kind of things. But for the Zhaoxin is the Chinese CPU which supports the x86, but x86. But the problem is the GPU. I think doesn't support the Deepin doesn't support the Zhaoxin GPU, so that you need to go to the Zhaoxin website to download the driver to install it. Otherwise, it will be very lagging and slow. So you can just go to the Jiaoxin CPU, Jiaoxin CPU, Chinese CPU, and go to the source center to the driver, and select your model KX 6000. My laptop is 6640MA, so you can see here the latest one is the Ubuntu. Yeah, the kernel 5.4. As I said, the UOS. So you can download the driver latest for the Deepin as well. But the problem is, I tried to install the UOS for the Jiaoxin x86, but while installing, it couldn't go inside to the installing menu and installing page. And I tried some kind of times, but it failed. Maybe the Jiaoxin, maybe Deepin, the UOS, the company, the Wuhan Tongxin company, lacks it. So I couldn't use the Jiaoxin version to use the UOS, to download the UOS to install it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you could try it. I tried but failed. So I used Deepin, and it was successful. So I used Deepin and installed the Deepin. I mean the Jiaoxin C960 GPU driver here. Only the GPU is minus problem. So for the the Deepin for x86 Intel AMD normally no problem. So for free here, but for the Deepin for international markets and users, download Deepin here. And the Deepin and UOS, the relationships is they are the similar company with some kind of maybe cooperation with those Chinese OS companies together to build a UOS with the Chinese software 中国软件和其他 any other the companies to build in the UOS to support the unified operation system. So based on Deepin, so they are similar with the similar platforms and icons or something. But the Deepin is for the outside market, so only support the Intel and AMD x86. So sometimes you can use the Jiaoxin if you can solve the driver's problem. But here, the UOS, you can just type the Baidu, the UOS engine, then you can go to the China UOS. It's like this screen. So it's just go to the source center. I mean resource center here, and then down the ISO here. So there are differences. This is a desktop home, so which only supports Intel and AMD, as I said. And I tried the Jiaoxin, I couldn't install this. It was stuck. It's stuck there. I tried 2 times and it failed, and I didn't try it. I installed the Deepin instead. Maybe some drivers problem, and then the company UOS lack the Jiaoxin, so that you need to go to the this desktop professional for the specially for Jiaoxin, so you need to pay. The problem is to pay. This is the home version. The family version is for free. Okay, so Intel AMD, you can also download it if you know Chinese, if you are familiar with the Chinese market, and if you like Chinese apps or UOS, or if you are living in China, the servers for upgrading your repository maybe faster. And then if you're outside, just go Deepin. But also you outside can also use this because it supports Intel and AMD. But I highly recommend you, if you're outside, go for Deepin. Okay, this is for Chinese markets. If you are Chinese, for sure you can outside. You can also use this UOS. It's for free. And this is under Windows environment, just click and you can download the file and execution file and install it. So which is very convenient. You don't need to go to make a boot USB, booting USB to put it in and install it by yourselves. Restarting the computer, plug in the USB to install with the ISO. So there are two options. So previously they have the UOS is the called personal, but now the personal they also upgraded it to UOS family, UOS home to unify it. So there is now only UOS family, this one, the same one, no more, And if you are using the Chinese CPU, say you got here Chinese CPU, or Zhaoxin Chinese CPU for x86 structures architecture, so Intel AMD x86 for sure. Zhaoxin also Haigan, Haigan CPU. So here download it, but this version is professional version, so it supports a lot of function for Chinese CPU, especially for Chinese CPU, and it supports recovery so that you can, when you upgrade the system to a failure, and then you can restore it while you restart the computer on the grub. You can select to recover the OS to the original one before the updating. So I think it has more functions because they are paid. All the versions here for supporting the Chinese CPUs are paid version, so you need to pay. Okay, you need to pay for this Intel Zhaoxin Haigan. And this has the Longxin 3A3000, 3A4000 is the MIPS with the MIPS versions here. But nowadays they have the self-invented version. The new version is the long up. For the 3A5000 is here, Longxin 3A5000. Okay. This is long at the new architecture, new instruction set. This is the MIPS with the modification. Previously, for 3A4000, 3A3000 is the MIPS modification. Now long up. And here is the ARM version for the Huawei Kunpeng 920 and then the Phytium CPU's instruction set. There is ARM version. Here is the Sunway SW64 is the another Chinese architecture, Chinese instruction set. So those versions are paid. So you need to pay it and to install it and pay it. Otherwise, you can just trial versions for 90 days. And it has no root. You cannot have the root right, okay? Those kind of things. So the difference are like that. And here is the servers version. So we can have Sunway 3231 CPU and then Intel server, Zhaoxin server CPUs, and ARM servers. Mid servers is 3B3000, so it's the same Kunpeng. ARM AMD 64, ARM server, Intel Kunpeng Phytium, those kinds of things. So here is the UOS, the difference. I have already mentioned it. So UOS is for the Chinese local market, but the Deepin is for the outside market. So it's the difference of between the Deepin and the UOS here. Okay. So what else I need to talk is the what kind of things I've already talked about the differences and how to install it outside or local market. The Deepin is for the outside market, more international apps. and how to install it. Yeah, I already taught, and what CPU they can support, and what kind of things I need to talk is the website already showed. And okay, you got normally outside China's people using Intel and AMD, so that you can download the Deepin for free. Yeah, it's for free. Deepin UOS home version for free too, but only having the for the home version only. Well, for the professional versions like Jiaoxin CPU couldn't have like Chinese CPU. Chinese CPU you need to use the professional version, so you need to pay. So that's the difference. Okay. If you're using Jiaoxin x86, you can use Deepin instead and install the driver from the Jiaoxin webpage. Okay. Any question, you can feel free to ask me about the Chinese OS and those kind of Chinese OS. You know, the Chinese OS is also based on Linux, Debian, DEB. You know, it's like this, and they modify it and make it better for the better distribution, better distro. Okay, that's the Chinese. Now, Chinese market mainly use Linux. In order to avoid the sanctions from the USA, now no problems. Now we got a lot of our OS, like Harmony OS, we got Deepin and UOS. There are also long legs for long scene, especially, and we got CTE, new OS, new start OS. A lot of OS we got now based on Linux, and we got the Harmony OS and Light OS also based the Light OS and also the Una OS from Huawei. Una OS is for server, so we got the server level, the desktop level. We got Chinese CPUs level, Chinese CPU, and also Harmony OS Kirin CPU supporting the Harmony OS for the Internet of Things IoT. Also, we got the great Harmony OS. Later we'll use. It's my phone now recording this videos using the Harmony OS and with the current CPU from Huawei. So now you can see the full Chinese OS and Chinese CPU. I don't, my home, we got Jiaoxin CPU and Nongxin CPU. As I previously recorded the videos, so you can refer for my previous videos as well for the Chinese market. So I don't think the USA can sanction us anymore, because even we got Zhongxin Guoji, we got the SMIC, they are sanctioning. We got Jingjia Michael. Now recently they sanction us. The Jingjia Michael JM9 series is equal to the NVIDIA GPU and 3D card. So they are afraid of us, but we don't need to use the US American technology as well. So we don't need to care, because we fully can have our CPU and GPU. We got the CPU semiconductor, CPU chip maker, the SMIC, comparing to the TSMC from Taiwan, the Taiji Den, and Samsung, and we don't need to be afraid of it. That's it. Okay, see you. If you have any question, please feel free to ask me about the Chinese OS CPU or something about China. Okay, we love peace and no confrontation, no sanction. Okay, cooperation. We got win-win, and we are human, all human beings living in the same community to build up the world together.